Hello, everyone, and welcome into the first episode of the Totally Stumped podcast. We are here with myself, YYYS2E3, of course, and Stumpy DBD. Now, if you don't know me, I am a DBD and variety content creator. I mainly focus on horror. I do some content on YouTube and on Twitch, and I just like to have a good time. I occasionally do streams with my good friend Stumpy here and other content creators as well. We like to always have a good time on the channel and just mess around, and so I wanted to bring that energy to a podcast with a good old friend here who suggested this podcast himself. Stumpy, would you like to introduce yourself?
How's it going? I'm Stumpy. I'm Irish. I'm not putting on the YouTube voice like my good friend Wise did there. But yeah, I'm mainly DVD as well. I've dabbled in a few other games, mostly horror genre. I kind of just love everything horror. Horror?
Oh god. Horror.
Yeah. Horror.
Turned into a pirate for a second.
I think the whole idea behind this is just like talking about the things that we would usually just talk about in case people want to listen and enjoy it. And
the fuck do you mean?
Yeah, just covering all things DBD, all things horror.
I've never talked to you before.
Who are you?
You legit you paid me to be here. I've never ever spoke to you. You don't lie to them like that.
It's a bad start. You're getting paid for this? Jesus.
Well, no, I kind of just stole your money, but anyway, let's look. I don't want to get in any trouble, so let's just move on. All right.
Yeah, I think the safest thing for us to start with is Dead by Daylight. It's like 90% of both of our content. It's probably what we're most versed in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's been a big part.
Where would you feel DBD's at the minute? Do you think it's like a good state, a bad state? There's a lot of people quitting, but I've also seen a lot of people returning. It's sort of a mixed bag at the minute.
Well, that sort of thing's kind of like a trend, right? When like one big person leaves, or one person that a lot of people like look up to, a lot of others decide, okay, it's time for me to go as well. Like, I saw that when I used to be in a streamers community called AKA Perky. I think you were there as well for quite a while, and like when he left, like everyone in this community also left streaming, and it was like, yeah, you know, it kind of trends like that. But we're seeing like people like Dowsy come back to streaming DVD now as well, and so I've seen a few people leave and get burnt out recently. And
I did see him streaming the other day, actually.
Yeah. He's been having a good time with the 2v8 made him come back. So I don't know if he's going to continue after that, but it was really cool to see him back. But I do feel like a lot of people are leaving at the moment, and I do personally, like, for me, the state of DBD is in its... I don't know if the state is the worst thing or if it's just a me thing, but I think it is to do with the state as well. For the first time in like the 3 and a bit years I've played, I'm starting to feel like it's getting a little bit old. I'm not enjoying it as much as I used to, and I think 2v8 like contributed to that. I know a lot of people really like 2v8, but for me, like I'm mainly a killer player. I don't really like survivor that much, and having 8 survivors, like all that happens is 2 killers like just like corner you and you just die 3 times. And then if you want to play killer in that mode, it's like 20-minute queue. And if you want to play killer,
the queue's really killed.
Unlike you in Dead by Daylight. But
exactly.
But we, you know, if you want to play like a normal killer game outside of that, guess what? Only a 10-minute queue instead. Isn't that great? And all of the games were like really stale during that time because everyone in normal queues for me just had like all of the strongest stuff. It was just like, because there were so few players playing that the matches were just like always the same, and it kind of sucked. So I don't know. I was getting a bit tired of DBD then. It's got a bit better since 2v8 has left because queue times are back to normal relatively, and games are a bit more interesting now. But like, I'm still feeling a little bit burnt out DBD, and I'm looking at some other games as well, but I'm still enjoying it. How are you finding it, Stumpy?
Yeah. I think since the event, the big anniversary event, things have gotten sweatier, which can be taken in a good way and a bad way. You know, it's making the game a lot more competitive, but there's a lot of people who just want to play DVD casually, and I think those are more the people who are feeling like, right, I'm getting burnt out of this, and I'm sick of it. Because it's sort of, if you're finishing your 9 to 5, you're looking to hop on. Obviously, everybody who started playing DBD wanted to play for fun. A lot of people just aren't getting the same fun out of it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I would say the devs are trying to do a lot about it. Like, My Little Oni game mode, the Chaos Shuffle, 2v8. They're trying to freshen up the game and make it good. But I think like you're always gonna have people burn out of any game eventually. And it's just sort of it comes in waves. It's not like one person's just gonna quit and that's gonna be a big thing. If someone you watch regularly quits and shows you like as they're quitting that, oh, I'm really not enjoying this game and I really hate this game, I think a lot of people that will maybe go into their own brain and they're like, you know what, yeah, DBD has been stale lately and oh, they're right, they're dead right in what they're saying. It sort of impacts then their community of like that'll cause a lot more people to quit.
Yeah,
but I think
so.
I think it's definitely like devs are trying to do good things in the game and it's great to see that they're trying. But the whole thing seems a little just sweatier. It's like a lot of the stuff that was strong on Killer and Survivor has been nerfed. So Killer and Survivor both feel that, right, we need to up our own game. We don't have the tools now to carry us through a game. We have to be a bit sweatier ourselves, or the other side is sweatier, which will push me to play harder and things of that nature. I think that's kind of where it's going.
They always have at least one tool if you're on the team.
Exactly.
You made a. Also, I think it would be interesting to touch on 2v8. So, what do you think of 2v8? I've got some like strong opinions on how it's going to affect DBD in the future, and I want to know what you think of it.
I think it was a good idea. It's not even that it was badly executed. I think there wasn't enough incentive on the Survivor side. I know they give a 400% bonus, but it was more. You could see more enjoyment on the Killer side, you know? Survivor side, it was kind of gens on quick chases.
Yeah.
Or that's what I've sort of witnessed. It's like, if the two killers come for you, you can loop one, you're not going to loop two.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, they need something new on the Survivor side to keep people engaged and make people want to play Survivor more than Killer to balance out the queues.
Yeah, I think that's a point. The thing is, like, with 2v8, I feel like people are looking at it in a really, like, a utopia sort of view, you know? Like, people are saying, you know, it's such a good game mode, a lot of people are coming back for it, people are really excited about it, looking forward to the new additions. I just can't share that optimism because my experience, I found a lot of players, like, you know, a lot of players were drawn in by it, but a lot of players also hated it because of the queue times, and me included, and, you know, the games all being stale and the same. This is, like, people who were enjoying the game mode still had those complaints, but those complaints were nullified because it was a new game mode that people were excited about, and it was the first time ever you've been able to play Kill with your friends. But what happens after a month or two of being able to do that, and it's not new and exciting anymore, it's just another option, those queue times are going to be worse for both roles now. Games are going to be more similar because of that in both sides of it. And that new factor of like, oh wow, this new really cool new feature is in the game isn't going to be there anymore. So I don't know if people are going to like 2v8 as much as they think they are. I think it could actually be people having an idealistic view on how it's going to be. And if it comes out, it could be a big problem for DBD. And I think DBD know that. I think they realize that could be an issue, and that's why they announced the Springtrap, like Five Nights at Freddy's thing so early, because they knew that 2v8 might cause was already causing some issues towards the end, and they wanted something that if 2v8 did make the game worse in the future, they'd be able to point to this collab coming soon afterwards. And so in my opinion, I think the devs also think that, but they just, you know, they're being cautious about it.
I have one for you that I noticed it in 2v8, and it has nothing to do with 2v8, but it makes me really excited for the future.
Okay.
Because killers have a big advantage at the minute in the game that they can load into custom games, play against 4 bots, and practice killer, get to know the power and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I played a game of 2v8 where my random teammate DC'd as a nurse.
Okay.
And to watch a nurse bot zipping around, hitting survivors, I'm thinking, right, from a survivor point of view, if they're able to code that, surely down the line, customs where you can load in as a survivor against a killer bot and practice looping against certain powers can't be too far off.
I'm pretty sure Behavior...
So that's kind of exciting.
I'm pretty sure Behavior said they were looking to implement that at some point, like in the future. So I think we will see that sometime soon. Obviously 2v8 they can do it. It won't be perfect, I imagine. Like I don't know how they're gonna do like a blight bot or anything, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. But I do look forward to that. That could be really cool for sure.
So then, what about our new killer, Dracula, coming in?
Hmm.
3 different big powers. He's got the wolf, the bat, and the third one that I can't remember in my head right now. But they're sort of going down this line with the new killers, like they did with Vecna, of multiple powers. How do you feel about that? Do you think it's a lot of learning for new players, or do you think less people will main him because it's going to be, obviously, you've got 3 powers to learn instead of 1?
Hmm. I don't know, because like it part of it is like it feels like with the multiple powers thing, part of it's a popularity contest, and like it's also on difficulty, right? So you can take Singularity and you can take Vecna, and like Singularity's he's not got too many different powers, but he's very, very complex, right? And then you've got Vecna, who has a lot of different powers, but maybe isn't as complex. But you can argue there's complexity to learning because there's so many different things. So there's 2 different types of difficulty, and no one plays Singularity, but everyone plays, or a lot of people do play Vecna. I think it's because a lot of people just like Vecna from D&D and stuff. So I think, there'll be a lot of people who play Dracula still because Castlevania, a lot of Castlevania fans. I don't think that'll put people off necessarily. I also think there'll be a lot of people that find it really cool that you can just turn into like bats, or like a hound or whatnot. So I think that is not going to put people off. I think people are still going to be quite excited about it. I think it'll be more like Vecna, less like Singularity, where the learning curve is not going to put people off. I think people are still going to enjoy this killer, but I'm not 100% sure how long they'll stay popular for. But we'll see. Time will tell. But it definitely looks like an interesting killer. I haven't seen too much of the gameplay, but from what I have seen, it does look pretty interesting. And one of the more exciting killers they've put out recently.
I will say his Mori looks great.
Yeah,
as someone who got Mori'd a lot in the PTB, it looks great.
It does. The chase music as well is really, really clean too.
I think they've done a very good job, but obviously they'll balance him before he comes into the game, and I'm sure he'll come in and he'll still need tweaks and stuff, but for the most part, they seem to have smashed it.
Yeah, no, I think so. They usually do quite a good job with the licenses as well. Like they always do a good job at it's keeping it true to the license. I think this is no different. Like I'm not a huge fan of Castlevania. I've not seen too much stuff, but it does feel like they've been pretty consistent with it. And I've spoke to a few Castlevania fans, and they're very, very like happy and excited about this. Like I had someone in stream yesterday talk about how like excited they were for Dracula to be in DBD, because it took they actually didn't like the gameplay of Castlevania, which was quite funny, but they loved like the lore and the aesthetic and the character designs and all of that sort of stuff. So they were really excited to see all of their favorite parts of Castlevania in a different game. So
yeah,
I think
even the castle floating off the map is a cool feature that they put in, or like a cool little Easter egg that they've put into the game as well.
It is. It's very, very pretty. It's very well designed. It's one that I'm sure people that are fans of Castlevania appreciate. And even if you aren't, like, it's still like a nice little detail and a nice little change to the normal sort of look.
Yeah. All right, stepping away from DBD slightly, because I know it was still part of it, but you did a 48-hour stream recently, and from like a streamer's perspective, what were your thoughts on it? Like, how did you deal with streaming for that long? What were the challenges in it? How did you recover afterwards? I'd imagine you just slept for an entire day after.
Yeah, I can get into that. That's a big question to unpack. But so how I got through the stream, I would say I wouldn't even have to use the words got through so much, because it was actually like so me and my streaming partner for this, we discussed like we'd obviously like planned out a lot of the stream. So me and Mimi had talked about doing 42 hours instead of 48, but 42 straight, which was like the original plan. I think that would have been a lot harder, but I figured that we maybe should do a little bit longer, but with some more breaks, just so we can guarantee like some good energy content. Because, as a long time DBD player now, sleeping pattern is out the window anyway. So who needs sleep? So if I've got a couple breaks in there, I could get through it. So we decided on 48 with some breaks. We had like 10 hours of breaks throughout the stream, 6 hour break in the middle of the stream where we could rest up and whatnot, and then an hour here and there to get like food and whatnot. But overall, I think I didn't really find it too taxing for the most part, because it was really fun because we were trying lots of different games that I had not tried before as well, and some that they hadn't tried, like Phasmophobia, for example, or Gary's mod, and things like that. And it was actually really fun. I couldn't have done it without them though. They made that stream really, really fun, and I think if I was doing that by myself, I would never be able to. But it wasn't too tiring. There was a point when we did like the full Resident Evil playthrough where I was like really tired, and that was a bit difficult. But once I got through that, it kind of all just it all like was pretty plain sailing. I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I gotta say, watching that made me realize just how dirty they've done Nemesis in DBD. Watching Resident Evil over and seeing how strong he is, and then even Wesker as well, because Wesker was in the game you were playing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he is strong, way stronger in that game than he'd ever be in DBD. But I suppose they had to nerf him a bit.
Bro, that that Resident Evil game, right? We're talking like strength for characters. There was this boss, right? I don't remember what it's called. It's like some Ouroboros infected guy. I don't know, some side character that became a main villain for like 2 seconds. And this person just would not die. We spent like half an hour trying to light them on fire, shoot them, whatever, and just managed to defeat them, and it just could not happen. And we eventually, like, someone in chat was like, hey, you know, you could just like buy an RPG and this'll just kill them. And so after like half an hour of like constant strategic battling to kill this monster, we just are like, fuck it, RPG. And we take one shot at this guy, he's just dead. It's like, I swear to God, it was the most painful and funny experience in the world. The fact we spent that long on it, and all it took was some random RPG. Yeah, just one shot. It was so anticlimactic. We could have just killed this guy like half a year ago, but no, we had to spend 5 hours like working out a Jose Mourinho tactical masterclass to try and kill this guy, and we just took out one RPG from the shop, and it's over. Like,
oh my God.
It was...
Do you feel that was an important bit of your stream, like to get through the 48 hours, switching up the games?
Yes.
Every now and again, and not just like one game through the whole thing would have absolutely killed, I'd imagine.
If this had been 48 hours straight of DBD, I would have actually cried. I would have lost my mind on stream. I would not be here today. I would be in an asylum. This would not happen. Like, you know, it was good because like I'm with someone who I really like and like get along well with, and we have so many different games. Like I could get the list up because my memory's like super good. Let's see.
Go for it.
Boom. Like we had Escape the Backrooms, which was like a first time for both of us, I think, and that was like really, really fun, and a lot of new people came in to see that. That was really cool. Left 4 Dead 2, which is like, I loved this game. Like I adored this game when I was younger. I played it all the time, and I came back to it recently. I actually asked Mimi to play with me recently, and that's when we started talking a little bit more, and that we decided to do this for the 48-hour stream and get a cool mod pack in, and we had a good very pretty good Left 4 Dead player carry us as well during the stream, so it was pretty good. We played Devour, which was my first playthrough and basically their first playthrough. They'd only played like one game, and that was terrifying. It was really funny. Gary's mod for a bit, which was like a game that I had always wanted to play, but I was on console, so like I didn't really get much opportunity to, so I was super excited for that. First playthrough of Faz, Minecraft, which is an old game I used to like again. Beyond Two Souls was great. Roblox horror games, Resident Evil, you know, Dead by Daylight, AI Stories, which was so funny. So keeping that freshness throughout the 48 hours and having like a person alongside you that you really like got me through that. If it had been like the same game for a long time, that would have kind of like Resident Evil 5, yeah, that was like 12 hours, but there was a break in between and it was a new game to me. And so like it was still really fun. But if it had been like the same game for the whole stream, that would have been a nightmare. That variety just helped like give us something to look forward to each time. And it was really good. But as I say, if you take them away, the stream becomes bad. If you play the same game for the whole time, the stream becomes bad. it's a combo of
Yeah.
having a bunch of like awesome games and a really cool person to do it with as well. I would not
Yeah, you got the
recommend.
balance just right.
Yeah, I would not recommend a stream like this. It's like single, because I see a few people try streams like this by themselves, and it's you will, at least in my experience, like after like 10 hours, you're gonna go insane. Like, don't just do this sort of stream by yourself. In my opinion, it's not. You start losing your mind after a while.
Yeah. So then coming off that, if we're talking about streaming, YouTube, who do you reckon? Obviously, we're trying to make our name in the DBD community. Who do you think is there, has made themselves just the best to watch in the DBD community? Who is a growing streamer that you think is just smashing at the minute? Or like, who is, if you're sitting and you're clicking on to Twitch, who are you watching?
Well, that depends, because like I don't watch many streamers. Like I'll watch a little bit of YouTube content, but streaming wise, I don't watch a lot of streams. Obviously, I have a lot of friends in the DBD community, and I'll watch their streams a lot, or I'll lurk or whatnot. But if we're just talking about like content creators that I don't have like a bias to, because obviously I'm gonna enjoy my friends' content more than big content creators because they're my friends. But Rocket, I mean, I might still be biased to Rocket anyway, but like because he played in my event, but I watched him before this. 1v1 Rocket's like a pretty big DBD content creator that I'm a big fan of watching. I do like to come around to his streams and chill and watch him play because it's really interesting. He's a really good player who doesn't like come across as like too much of a big ego as well, and like he usually comes across quite respectful and quite chill from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to just unwind to see him play sometimes. Lilith Omen is another big content creator I don't mind watching a little bit of. Can be fun. His blight plays are always really impressive, and he always seems like a pretty like chill and upbeat person. So plus like I got a funny clip from him when I played Billy against him, and he's like one final chase and then dies immediately. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, Lilith is definitely one of those creators who has the balance spot on. He is an insane blight, a very good killer overall, but he has like the content brain on him is insane. I was in his stream not that long ago, and he was playing a blindfolded game, and it was actually even his community. The content brains on them is amazing because he had a member of his community directing him around while he was blindfolded and convincing him that he was on the game. I think he was on Blood Lodge. So it was very funny, him blindfolded, and he's like, am I upstairs or downstairs? And he's nowhere near. He could be standing in shack. And they're going, oh yeah, you're upstairs on the game right now, just taking the piss. And just that sort of content, he is killing it at the minute. Him, and I think Slate would be another one that I just, every time he posts something, I find myself just pissing myself laughing, especially like his short form content, shorts and things like that. If I see he's in it, I'm gonna watch it because it's hilarious. Those are some content creators smashing at the minute. Obviously, you got the big names. You've got Ots, Aaron, JRM. We're always gonna do well. Spooky Loops is his whole vibe is amazing.
Hens as well, I think.
Hens does a thing where he just bridges the gap a bit. I feel between content and competitive, and it makes you feel a lot more like you can get into competitive, whereas if you just went straight to, say, DBD League, you might feel a bit out of your depth.
Yeah, no.
But Hens links it nicely.
I think Hens definitely does. Like, he's been in both worlds, like, quite a lot, and it's a nice, like, he's got a bit of everything, right? Like, he started out as, like, a normal DBD player like everyone else, then he became a competitive player, now he's a content creator who dabbles in that, but knows what it's like to just, be a casual DBD player as well. He's got, like, all of the sort of backgrounds, and so it's always really interesting to see like not only his takes on things but also see like how he approaches the game, how he sees things. And now he's one of those new DBD advisors or whatnot. I don't remember what they're exactly called, or consultants. That's what it is. It's going to be interesting to see. Like, I hope they have a lot to say, because someone like Hens being on the team is probably really good, because he's like from all the different backgrounds, he's probably the best sort of person to bridge the gap between finding like a good balance for competitive and also for casual players.
100%. And if we, right, I'll put it like this: if we name one competitive player who you think is in your opinion, is your favorite out there, one content creator who's your favorite out there, and I even want to mention one that is kind of both.
Okay.
Who would you pick for those two anyway? And then I'll get on to mine.
Okay, so my favorite one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite competitive player is it's probably got to be Rocket. I think,
Mm-hmm.
if he's the one I watched the most. He played in my event. When I spoke to him, he was really really chill as well. So like he does come across as like a really really cool guy. As for content creators, again, like as I say, I don't really watch a whole lot of like big content creators on Twitch, but on YouTube I do watch it a little bit. So I still watch Lilith and whatnot on YouTube, but I also watch Hens. I watch a lot of Alf. Watch basically every video Alf posts. I don't think I've missed a video on his channel. I watch Kaito a good amount. Obviously Ots as well, kind of goes without saying. And I've
Yeah.
got a lot of friends that I watch, but I feel like friends are a cop out. Like I'm not gonna pick a friend. The answer might be a friend, but I'm not gonna pick a friend because I feel like that's just biased. So if we're going for like content creators that are like not personal to me, I would say that my favorite would probably be I think Kaito might produce the best content. I might say Kaito. Just for
Yeah,
pure
Kaido does some
content.
insane stuff.
Yeah, Kaito's content is so top of the range and like high quality. It's really, really impressive to watch. Like, it's almost always a great, great video when Kaito uploads.
Mm-hmm. I think for myself, my answer would be based on the fact that I am a bit of a nerd. So whenever I play a game, when I get real into a game, I find myself sitting on YouTube watching guides, sitting on Twitch watching the very best players I can to learn. So I think from a competitive standpoint, Zaka is probably my favorite, just because he's entertaining for one. Like that team rips the piss out of each other in intense situations, and it's hilarious to see shit from his perspective, from their perspective. But also the things that he does, because he's one of the best survivors I've ever seen, as well as being good at killer. There's little tacks and stuff that he does you would never think of,
Yeah.
and he'd pull it off, and you're going, right, oh my god, I gotta try that. That's insane. And similarly, from a content side of things, Hens does the same. If Hens makes a video, it's worth watching because
Yeah.
you will not only enjoy yourself, you'll learn something. And that's, I think, the strongest thing about his channel. Like the amount I've learned of those two alone, that has just made me an ultimately better DBD player and even a better content creator, because it means if I'm in a game and I do that or replicate something I've seen them do, I can explain it and say, right, this is why I did that, because it's already been explained to me by them. And then the one I wanted to mention, who's kind of a bridge between both, and who I think is one of the main people that makes like DBD League work, is Direwolf. He just
Yeah.
manages to make DBD League more entertaining. Like it is already entertaining, and it's really fun to watch, and it's competitive, and it's interesting. But just the way he commentates and some of the jokes he pulls out and things like that, it bridges the gap so well.
Yeah, no, I do love Direwolf. Yeah, his commentary is really good. I do enjoy it a lot.
Mm-hmm. So then, if we branch away from DBD to just horror in general, I will eventually learn to say that word.
I'm not sure you will.
But like, where do you think it's at? Because I'm seeing a lot of remakes on movies. I'm seeing a lot of sort of Scream 5s and Saw 10s and things like that coming out. Is the genre as a whole lacking new ideas, or is it just in a bit of a limbo at the minute, trying to find the next big thing?
The thing is, right, for me, like, it's an interesting topic because I only started watching horror like relatively recently. Like my first like proper horror movie was Scream 5. So like I'd seen the odd horror before that, but I saw Scream 5 and it came out in the cinemas. It wasn't even my choice. It was just like, like my family wanted to go watch a movie and they picked that one. I was like, okay, sure.
Dragged
And
along.
and I watched that and it was really, really, really sick. I loved it. It was great. It was a great movie. So I went and watched all the other Screams. and it was a weird order: 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's the order I did it in. And then I was like, okay, you know what? This was actually really good. I'm gonna watch some more horrors. So I watched the original Halloween. I watched some of the Alien movies. I watched the first Friday the 13th and like a few other movies here and there, and like Terrifiers as well, for example. So for me, I've still got a lot of horror movies to still like discover, but I don't feel like it's getting like it's. I don't think it's lacking new ideas at the moment. I think there's a lot of continuations of movies, right? So it gives the impression that it's a lack of ideas because you're continuing something that's not original, I guess. But I feel like they're making the movies different, right? Like Scream 5, for example, they bring in like a new cast of characters, and for the most part, you still got some of the older characters, but it's pretty new, and there's a lot of things that were different in that movie to the other ones. And if you go to like the new Saw movie, for example, that is like in the same universe, but it's the first time we get to see like John for the main part of the movie, and you get to see a lot more of Amanda too, and it's more like building on things. And maybe you'd say that's not exactly. I'd still say it's quite original, even if it might be seen as unoriginal, because it's the first time we're really seeing this on the screen, right? And so we know this is the case in the universe, but we've not seen it before. And so I'd still argue that it's still original, but that's just me. Obviously, be cool to hear your take on it.
I think the phrase that probably would sum it up is suffering from success. So like when a movie does really well, like a Scream or a Saw or a Alien, Predator, all that, they're going to want to make more of them. Yeah. That's why we're seeing so many of them where they're going, right, people like this. We can build on this idea. And some film franchises do take it too far, not pointing any fingers, Fast and Furious, but and it goes on too long. But if you can keep it fresh, I think it is fine. It's just I think you touched on your first horror movie. I think my first one was the Blair Witch Project, which if you watched it now is not scary. It's not really scary at all. But back then, when horror was still finding its feet. I'm gonna stop saying that word. Whenever it was just finding its feet and stuff, that was the scariest thing. The idea, especially being from Ireland, a good portion of this island is forests and wide open fields and stuff like that, and places where you in your head could imagine this stuff happening, and that's what made it scarier. Sort of in Ireland. It was like, oh my god, I don't want to go anywhere near a forest now, in case something like that happens. I remember that terrifying me. To be fair, I think I was like 9 when I watched it, but yeah, I remember being shit scared of that. But I think as a whole, because I have watched a lot of horror movies, I'm looking for new stuff, and a lot of the smaller stuff, not made by big companies, is catching my eye now, of like really good small movies. And I gotta say, a great, if you're ever looking to find good horror movies, there's a channel called Dead Meat on YouTube, and they do like kill counts and stuff. And I would say watch the movies before you watch the kill count, but whenever they're putting up a kill count, it's usually either a great movie or it's gonna be a hilariously bad one. And sometimes those are even better to watch than the good movies. So they are.
I feel like Dead Meat had like a cameo appearance in Scream 5, if I remember correctly.
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
It was them on their podcast.
Yeah. Bro, they do a podcast? That's so cringe. Who would do a podcast?
I know, imagine. Who would do a podcast in this day and age?
Nobody wants to watch a couple of idiots talking to each other. Come on.
Yeah, jeez. The only thing would be worse if one was English and one was Irish. Oh.
That's a terrible combo, yeah. You don't want that.
Yeah.
It's better than double Irish, at least.
Yeah, while we're on the subject, what is the scariest horror movie you've seen? What do you think was a movie you were like, oh my god, that terrified me?
Probably one of the new Disney Star Wars movies. That was horrible experience, very horrifying, very scary. I'd like to unsee everything I've seen from them. But I would say like scariest horror movie. The thing is, right? I don't really get scared by things. I get scared by, well, I do, but I don't get scared in the same way. Like, I can't watch something and be like creeped out by it. It's just not gonna creep me out. But if it's like loud noise, oh my god, then I'll get jump scared. You know, that they know the voice crack never happened. Then I'll get jump scared. And so I get scared in that sense. I get startled, I guess, but I don't get like, it's not a long-term thing. I don't look back at movies and be like, oh my god, that was scary. So I think,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like what jump scared me the most. Insidious jump scared me a couple times. Like the original Insidious, the like demons in that got me a couple times, or the random appearances out of nowhere. So I'd say that Insidious was the scariest movie I've seen so far, probably.
I think I've watched too many horrors at this stage because I don't jump scare as easily. Like, one might catch me, but as soon as I've seen one, I'm like, oh, right, it's gonna be that sort of movie, and you kind of expect them from there on in.
Yeah.
It's why I'm like the worst streamer ever to go up against as a Scratch Mirror Myers, because I'm like, just no reaction. It's quite shit. But I think I've just made myself numb to that sort of thing. The movies that really get me are the sort of psychological ones where they're just building tension the entire time and you're sitting there just stressing. Those are the ones that not so much scare me, but make me really feel like on edge and nervous. And they're the sort of ones you're coming out of the cinema going, oh my God, how did they get away from that?
Yeah.
You know, that would be my take on it. I love those types of movies the most. So I do.
Okay, that's fair. I like it. I've not watched like I don't think I've watched a whole lot of psychological horror movies. I should maybe give one a try at some point. You got any recommendations for me and everyone listening?
That is a good question. None come to mind right now, but I'll try and get one for the next podcast.
You're such a big fan of psychological horror, I can tell. You know, I've just seen so many horror movies by now, guys, that like I just can't recommend a single psychological horror.
Oh, I've got a good example of a small bit of psychological in a movie. Have you seen
No.
Oh, it was made by John Krasinski. It's Really Silent. A Quiet Place. It does this thing throughout the entire movie where obviously it's got the big scary monsters, it's got the you can't make noise or they'll find you type of thing. But there's a scene pretty early in the movie where John is going up the stairs and he disrupts a wooden board off the stairs, and there is this nail sticking up in the air for the entire movie. And you know somebody's going to step on it. And it's just the tension of every time they go near that nail, you're like, oh, please, God, no, please. And obviously there's a big payoff to it and it happens, but it's the building of that tension is done so well. And I think out of that entire movie, that was the thing I was the most stressed about. I was sitting going, please don't step on the nail. And you know it's coming, but it's like the stress of like, oh, God, that more so than the jump scares that are in it.
So you'd say the directors nailed it. All right, guys.
That's terrible.
We can now say anything, Stumpy. We could say anything we want now because everybody who was listening is not listening anymore.
Oh, they're gone. They're long gone.
They are.
But yes, I believe we wanted to cover. Well, we want to try and cover either a horror movie in each one of these or a series of horror movies. And I think the only series we've both seen is Saw, so we definitely need to watch more, the two of us.
The only series we've both seen is Saw. So
it seems like it.
So you're telling me you've not seen the Scream movies, Stumpy?
Oh, well, I've seen Scream. But
wow. Okay.
We've decided to start with Saw.
Okay.
And what would be your overall thoughts on Saw? I know a lot of people just say, oh, it's torture porn, it's not proper horror movies, but I think it does have those horror qualities. I think a big thing for me that I love seeing is the different traps. That's one of my biggest interests in the movies, going in and seeing, right, what has John Kramer come up with this time that will torture somebody?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I've never seen the movies. What I liked, so Saw was like pretty early in as well, like after seeing the Screams. And the Saw movies, like Saw and Scream are like my favorite horror franchises, so like series is out there. Like I love those, they're great. What I like about Saw is one, I appreciate like it's got a lot of what I appreciate. So it's got a bit of grade morality, which is always great. I like a villain where it's like, okay, you know, I see what they're doing. I don't agree with it, but they're not pure evil. I can see why they think this, but it's wrong. And John does a
Mhm.
great job at that because, you know, he truly believes he's helping people. He believes he's some sort of like help force for good to help change people from, you know, their bad ways and help them become better people and whatnot. And that's a good goal, right? That's a great aspiration. But the way he's doing it is very twisted and like just kind of evil, you know? But at the same time, it's branched with someone who is quite well aware of the things he's doing, but still thinks they're right. He's not like he's
Yeah.
not brainwashed into like he understands what he's doing. He just believes it anyway. He's a very smart guy who, you know, that's always interesting to watch too because it's a villain who isn't beating, you know, characters through muscle or brawn or something supernatural. It's just a really intelligent guy who's twisted and using, you know, his twisted mind to create all of these different contraptions and tests for the victims to overcome. And if they do, you know, it's interesting to see what happens there and the tension of if they can overcome these challenges. It's always really, really interesting. And it's kind of the riddle part of Saw as well, and working out like what's actually going on and the full story is always really interesting too. And so the reveals
Mhm.
at the end of like the Saw movies, where usually you'll have something that's revealed to you that you've been missing, that you should have figured out or whatnot, and it's always like a massive payoff there. It's like, damn, I can really see how this all came together now. This is really interesting. And so it's a really cool series to look at, I think.
Yeah, I think the reveal that comes to mind whenever you mention it there is it was in one of the more recent saws. He has the final two chained up, and he puts a shotgun in the middle, shows them the shotgun shell. It goes, "Here's your key to freedom." And the whole double meaning behind that he has put the two keys to their chains in the shotgun shell is just like it's not something a normal person would think of. But
Yeah.
I think John Kramer, like he thinks he's right. He thinks
Yeah.
what he's doing is good, but his moral compass is all over the place.
It is. It's so all over the place.
In his mind, this is the best option. This is the best way to teach people and punish them for their mistakes. But it's just it's a bit mental, John.
It is a little bit. It is a little bit. I think another thing that makes it more interesting as well, though, is because it isn't just like it is people who have done bad things as well. So it's not just random people; it's people who've done bad things, and it's like a thing for him to try and redeem them. And it's interesting to watch that, but it's just like, well, maybe not interesting. The interesting part to watch is the traps, but it's interesting to think like,
Mhm.
okay, this is why John's put them here. This is how he thinks it's going to change things. This is very interesting. But it doesn't always make a lot of sense. There are a lot of memes made about that sort of thing, with good reason. So, but it's always interesting to see.
I think one of the things that irked me about the series is like how many sidekicks does one guy need? I think I would have been happy if they had continued on with Amanda Young and showed like their relationship more instead of bringing in, okay, you've got this guy was also working with Kramer. This guy was also working for him. It's like, right, how many of these does he have?
Nah, but like I'm glad they did that because they brought in Hoffman, and Hoffman for me is like one of my favorite villains in horror. Like he was such a cool villain to watch. The I don't know if you recall it, but do you remember like the voice recognition scene with Hoffman where they're trying to figure out like you know they have the audio recording of like the Jigsaw killer, but they're just like descrambling it so from the like a fake voice. And you got this scene where Hoffman's just in there with like a prime member of like the CIA or whatever and another officer, and then the person like unmixing the voice. And the prime officer's like, okay, starting to question Hoffman about it and be like, you know, this doesn't all add up, sort of thing. This, and that. And it's really cool to see the tension. There's so many little details in that scene as well. Like you'll see Hoffman like pick up a cup of coffee when he's starting to get questioned, and then when the questioning turns away and like say this theory is correct and you're not the killer, you know, or the killer was this, he puts it down because he's like he feels safe again, and then he goes back, the other one goes back to questioning him and he picks it up again, and you've got this scene of like the constant voice in the background becoming more and more clear and the questioning going on and the other officer just like circling them being like, you're nervous. It's just it's such a good like tension building scene, and when like it's the voice is finally revealed, It's like a really like chilling scene. It's great.
I built the tension very well.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. And then, of course, these movies have everybody's favorite, Billy and his tricycle.
Yes, of
An
course.
iconic image now. I think everybody who sees Billy's face now just knows so.
Yeah,
So
no,
they do.
iconic picture, so for sure.
Definitely. So then, right, if you were to pick a favorite trap throughout the whole series, what would you pick and why?
Okay. Favorite trap. This is a favorite.
Yeah, that sounds a bit sadistic and horrible, but it's
It depends.
what was the one you thought that's pretty cool?
Okay. That's pretty cool, eh? Okay, this is a hard one. What
We're
trap
about to just
did I-
unveil how much of a secret psychopath Wise really is.
You're the one asking the question. You're the psycho here, not me. Look, if I'd answered straight away and I was like, oh yeah, I love that trap where they just get like they have to cut out their eye. Yeah, that one's really good. Then maybe you could say that. What is my favorite trap? That's a really good question. I feel like this is a really, really hard one.
Do you want me to go first and let you think about it a
Could you
bit
go
more?
first? Let me have a little think about this.
So I love the one, I think it's so 3 or 4, and it's got the guy Ryan in it, and there's a door, and I believe it says no, not an exit, and he walks towards it, falls through the wooden board in the floor, and the wire tightens around his leg, while the other two then go off, I believe, into a big silo type thing, and corn starts coming down on them. And he's hit with that dilemma of, right, I can remove my leg to save them, or I can let them die. And I'll keep my leg, but I am still trapped here. And it's just the tension of like, right, when is he gonna pull it? Is he just gonna rip his leg entirely off here to save these other two? And it's just, I think it's a great, like, scenario he's been put in, if you know what I mean. And it was completely his own doing, because the door said not an exit and he walked towards it.
Yeah.
I might have remembered that wrong, and if I did, Saw fans will hate me, but
sure, I'm sure it's all good. I think you remembered it wrong, but it's all good. Okay. I think, So for me, I feel like I might be inclined to say that my favorite, it's hard to define criteria, right? Because it depends what you're going off. My favorite to watch was probably the nerve gas house thing in the second one. I liked that because I know that's a very large one.
You liked that?
I thought it was a good trap, like it was very interesting to see how everyone interacted with each other. The reason I liked it is because you get to see so many different characters try and work together, and all these characters had been like to jail, so they have a very mix of like different personalities. Some of them are actually pretty cool people who've had bad things happen. Some of them are just bad people. And like it's very interesting to see all of them try to work together to overcome this big issue. And it was interesting to see how they reacted to like the revelation that obviously the detective's son was the son of the detective who put them all in prison falsely. So it was really interesting to see that. But if we're talking about traps that are favorite for like just brutality or like, oh my god, this is the worst trap, I thought in the first movie, I think it was, where the person's covered in like flammable gel and has to have a candle and walk around and find this code on the wall while they're poisoned, and like that was kind of rough. That was probably the worst.
I think as well, we definitely have to mention the OG reverse bear trap. Like, it is just class. It's just such a. I don't want to say it's a great idea. It's not.
It's a great
horrible
idea
in real life, but it's just such an iconic trap. Like, obviously, we've seen a lot of different iterations of it, and included in a lot of different media that's not even included in Saw, and it's just. It is the one that pretty much everybody thinks of when they think of Saw.
Yeah.
I think.
No, it's a pretty iconic one for sure. I think it's like I don't like an answer like that because it's kind of like it's like a bit generic, but it is cool. Like it is
Yeah,
definitely, it's not
but
one I'd
it
give
has
straight
to be
away.
mentioned.
But yeah, I think it is like really good.
Yeah. Then I think that pretty much wraps us up. Apart
Thank
from
God.
we do want to try and use sort of the last few minutes of each podcast to shout out one of the growing streamers that we would know, and we're going to start with Celestial Story, who you know a lot better than me, so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have the displeasure of knowing Celestial Story. It's very, it pains me every day, but Celestial Story is an absolutely legendary.
Oh,
What are you doing, Stumpy? Stumpy's cooking in the
I'm
background.
looking about. Yeah.
Don't worry about him. Okay. So, Celestial Story is an absolutely amazing variety content creator. They do a lot of DBD, but they also do a lot of other horror games and just generally like different fun games out there as well. Like they did Undertale recently. And they're doing like they do all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. They do DBD, as I said. They do Lethal. They've done some content warning. I often do streams with them as well. They're just a really good friend of mine, and they've always looked out for me, and I always look out for them. So they're very very kind and welcoming person to everyone, and they would love to have you in their community. Absolutely great growing streamer, and yeah, they deserve all the support in the world. So huge shout out to them. And yeah, if you're interested in that sort of content, feel free to go check them out. They recently had a new VTube character that looks absolutely amazing. They always put 110% into their streams, so huge credit to them. And hopefully the streams keep getting better and better.
Yeah, something I've definitely noticed about them is they're just the positivity. Like, if you're in a bit of a shit mood going into their stream, you're not going to come out of their stream in a shit mood.
Yeah.
The positivity is infectious. They'll just always cheer you up and just are a lot of fun to watch.
I can vouch for that's just who they are as well. They are like on and off stream. They are a really really positive and great person to be around.
Yeah, definitely one of the nicest people that I know by far. It's hard to find genuinely nice people these days, but Celeste is definitely one of them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that sums us up.
All right. I'll expect
it probably
my
wasn't
paycheck.
Perfect, but it'll do.
my part was perfect. Thank you very much. I did it. What do you reckon, guys? I think I was brilliant. I think I was the best.
I know they've probably heard my chair squeak a few times. I will fix that. Don't worry. That's got the WD-40 out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose that wraps up the first one. Until next week, then we'll make another one. We'll try and make this a more regular thing and give you maybe an hour or so of our time every week. Yeah.
Sounds like a fun time to me. Thank you for for sharing this with me, Stumpy. This has been very fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Until next time, then.
Until next time, guys. Hope to see you all around for the next one.